All right, well, hello again to my LPN students, and this is my second video on the OB stuff talking about timing contractions and fetal heart tones. So I've already done the timing contraction video for you and got that on. As I said, I will post a handout shortly on that has both of these videos or the content of them in that handout. But I wanted to go ahead and get this second video done. So this video will be about the fetal heart tones, which is the heart rate of the fetus, of the baby. And we're going to be discussing it in relationship to mom's contractions here. So you can see I have two contractions drawn out that mom's had, and we're going to talk about those in relationship to mom's contractions. And certain situations that are going on with the baby. So I guess I'll start out with normals. I think pretty much this normal range that I will give you will be pretty close, pretty accurate. So hospitals around here, though, they go 110. So you can see my scale here, 80, 90, 100 goes up, all the way up to 210. And so 110 to 160, okay, that range in there is going to be our normal. And so that's our normal range, 110 to 160. And then we have also what is called variability. We look for variability in the heart rate. Now, this is the tracing that you would see something like this. I'll show you some real examples here in a minute. When we get done with this, we'll look at those. But this is what we call variability, this jiggling up and down. Now, this is not the beat to beat, P wave, QRS complex, T wave thing. This is not that. This is just a generalized tracing of the baby's heart rate. And this variability that they call it, this up and down movement, all right, that they call it, is the baby reacting to his uterine environment in there. And so when we see variability, this is good. This is what we want to see. This is very reassuring. So we feel good about this. We're between the normal range of 110 to 160, and we have what we see here is good variability, trucking along there. This may go up a little bit, down a little bit, and keep right on going, just doing that number right there. And as long as we're between 110 and 160, we're in good shape. So we see that as really good, really reassuring, and that the baby is telling us, okay, so this is the baby's way of speaking to you. The baby is talking to you. He's telling you how he's doing in there. So this is the baby's way of saying, hey, I'm good, thumbs up, everything's going well. So then we want to compare that to something else, okay? So let's just say that we had this tracing. Okay, so we just have that right there. And so that would be poor variability. You don't see that up and down movement there, okay? We don't see that up and down movement. And so this would be very scary. This would be very upsetting to me. We would need to react quickly. Something's going on. Even though we are between our normal range, this is not good. I would be very concerned about this when I see this. That is an unreassuring pattern right there. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to just wipe that off a second, just a little bit. All right, so our next thing that we want to look at is I'm going to go back to that reassuring pattern, so we were good for a while, and then this happened. All right, and so we were good, we were trucking along here, and we're good, and we're within normal range here. And we've got good variability, and then all of a sudden we start upsloping here, and the baby's heart rate increases, and it goes up. And so we're concerned then with the baby going into tachycardia. Why is the baby going into tachycardia? So here is the thing, though. What we're going to look for is I need to see that this tachycardia is actually occurring usually between a 10-minute window between contractions. So if this acceleration is occurring with mom's contractions there, it may be the contraction causing that. And so once the contraction eases back off, baby's heart rate comes down and we're good there. But if I'm having this in between a 10-minute window here, so mom is at resting tone here. Remember that from the first video. Mom is at resting tone there, and I'm seeing this elevation for 10 minutes in the baby's heart rate. That does kind of concern me a little bit. I want to look at that and check that out. However, though, having said that, am I reassured that the baby is still doing okay in there and that this is not like an emergency, I got to start doing all these interventions or anything like that? Well, what reassures me about that is that I have this variability, good variability here. So as long as I am seeing that good variability there, I'm very reassured about that, and that is a good sign. So the baby is reacting to something in there, in his environment. He is tacky, but we have good variability. Now, so maybe I look back on the tracing, okay, and so I'm analyzing, I'm trying to analyze, has this happened before? Where did it happen? What was going on? And so maybe on the tracing I see where they did a vaginal exam, okay? And so I look at this and I go, oh, right here, they did a vaginal exam, and then we had the increase in heart rate. Well, that was just the baby saying, hey, you poked me in the head, I felt that, I didn't like that, you're in my house, I didn't invite you in here, get out of my house. And so you've kind of aggravated him, ticked him off a little bit. And so you run up to a little tachycardia, but not 10 minutes long, maybe, a couple of minutes, 5 minutes or something. And then all of a sudden he's back down into normal range, and I've still got that good variability going. So when I see that right there, I'm reassured about that. I'm okay. If this keeps going past that 10-minute window between mom's contractions, though, so they were not influenced, this tachycardia was not influenced by mom's contractions, then I'm going to need to continue to investigate and probably do some interventions. And I'll talk more about the interventions when we get to some other stuff. So that is one thing, the tachycardia. All right, so then we're going to look at the other end of the spectrum there, okay? And we're just going to bring this down. Okay. And so the other end of the spectrum is that I'm looking at bradycardia. Now, is this true bradycardia? All right, so is this something that I need to get worried about and concerned about, and I need to start my interventions here? Well, again, I need to look through at this. Is there a 10-minute window between contractions to where this is not being influenced by a contraction or anything like that I see here? So I'm going to look for that. Number two, am I in good variability? Is the baby in good variability? So am I reassured about that? Well, yes, I can see good variability going on here. So the baby is still reacting well in his uterine environment. The heart rate is still doing good there, but he's just in bradycardia. So I need to find out, was this something that we can figure out what's going on with the baby? So sure enough, I might look back on my tracing here, and it may be where one of the other nurses came in and gave Demerol, okay? And so they wrote that on the tracing, and I go, oh, okay, so the mom has had Demerol, and whatever mom gets, the baby's going to get. And so the baby is relaxed, the baby is asleep, he's chilled out in there, and so the heart rate dropped down. And so, we're going to monitor this, we're going to watch this, but we're in good variability. I know what happened, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. And like I said, we'll talk about our interventions here in just a moment. We'll get into all the different interventions that you can do and stuff like that. Okay, so the next thing, and let me go ahead and just wipe this off again. I just kind of want to keep this clean so you get good images of what I'm doing. Bear with me. And okay. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is decelerations. Now, there are 3 types of decelerations, and this is when we really start getting concerned about the baby's fetal heart tone is when we see these sometimes. So the baby's fetal heart tone, we're going to talk about the first type of deceleration, and that is called an early deceleration. So what happens is the baby's heart rate may be coming along through here, and I'm not the best artist in the world, and I know this is not a perfectly straight line, but it should be close. And so the baby's heart rate starts down. Okay, and continues on through here. Okay, so what we call this, what we're seeing here is what's called an early deceleration. Now you can see my little lines right here. So this is the beginning of the contraction right here. So we're saying this is where the contraction actually started. And you can see that the baby's heart rate decline started at the same time. So the baby's heart rate started to drop. He started to go into some bradycardia there as the contraction was increasing. Right at the peak of mom's contraction here, so this is when mom's contraction was the greatest intensity, at the peak, the baby's deceleration, or nadir, the baby had reached its nadir, the lowest point, at mom's peak of her contraction. So we can see that they match there. And then mom's contraction starts to ease off and go away, and the baby's heart rate is mimicking that. The baby's heart rate is going back up to its norm, to normal level. And so you can see here, this line shows that the mom's contraction is over and the baby's heart rate is back up to the normal. So what we call that is an early deceleration of the heart rate, an early deceleration. So, and slang is early decel. We call it an early decel. So, what you see here is this: the baby's heart rate is being influenced by mom's contraction, and we expect to see this around 3-4 centimeters dilation, down around there. So the baby's head, what's causing that is the baby's head is down here, and as the mom starts to have the getting into a little bit stronger contraction, 3 to 4 centimeters dilation, and it starts to squeeze on the baby's head a little bit, right on the crown of the head. Okay, and if you guys will remember, I talked to you previously about the vagal nerve. The vagal nerve runs, has outcroppings from the top of the head all the way, down to the waist level. And so there are places where that outcrops, and we can stimulate that nerve and cause your heart rate to drop. If you all remember that, we talked about, I think, carotid massage, the Valsalva maneuver, things of that nature that can slow the heart rate down. Well, in fact, then with babies, when you squeeze around their head, that can trigger that vagal nerve response, and the heart rate of the baby starts to drop when mom starts to have a contraction. Mom reaches the peak, the baby has reached its nadir, or its lowest point. Mom's contraction is over, the baby's heart rate is back up to a normal heart rate. Having looked at that as well, what else do we see that is reassuring? We see good variability. All right, we see good variability here, so I'm reassured about that. It's an early deceleration. I expect to see this. I do expect to see that. So no problem there. No emergency there. We're going to monitor. We're going to continue to monitor, make sure this doesn't change into something worse. But, I expect to see that, and so no problems there, no interventions needed. Just continue to monitor. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about, we still have this same thing coming along here. Okay, and so what we see with this deceleration, this is another deceleration, but we call this a late deceleration. And so I'm going to establish my little lines back up through here. Okay. All right, I'll bring that one on up too. Okay, So, what you see with this deceleration, and they call it a late deceleration, where the other one, the previous one, was an early deceleration. And it was an early deceleration because it occurred early in mom's contraction. All right. Well, this one is a late deceleration because it occurs late in mom's contraction. So, in other words, mom has reached her peak point of contraction, and then the baby's heart rate starts to decelerate. Okay. And then when mom's contraction is over, so here mom's contraction is over, the baby is just now reaching the nadir, or the lowest point of his deceleration there. And then slowly the heart rate starts to come back up. So this, we don't like to see this. This can indicate certain things to us. This could be caused by pit drip, that we're getting too strong of contractions, too long of duration of contractions, and those things that we said we would, 4 things that we're going to monitor for. This could be fetal infection causing these problems, fetal infection in mom, fever, maternal fever. Her heart rate is speeding up so fast, trying to cool her from the fever, that she's not getting good cardiac output. This can be done by certain medications, tocolytics, that we could give mom, could cause that. I'm trying to think of some other stuff. Maternal hypotension, maternal hypertension. So when I say maternal, we're talking about mom. So mom could be going into hypotension. Mom could be going into hypertension. So we want to check mom's vital signs. That would be one of our interventions with this as well. Or with all of these, okay, with all of these that we're talking about, we're going to run the kind of the same interventions. So definitely want to get mom's vital signs when we start seeing this, and see where mom's vital signs are. Do we think it's a hypo or a hypertensive thing in mom? Other than that, other interventions that we're going to start employing is simply turn mom over. I love this one the best because it's non-invasive. It's not a big deal. You're just going to turn mom over, and usually do the left side first. So turn mom over to the left side. What can happen a lot of times is mom's vena cava is laying down the spinal cord there. And if mom's laying flat on her back, which she should not be, don't lay pregnant ladies flat on their back in supine position. The baby can really just settle right down, and the vena cava is right there on mom's spinal cord. So if the baby kind of settles down on that, it just squeezes it off. When you squeeze off the vena cava, which is bringing back all the blood flow from the legs and stuff like that, it's mom's cardiac return. So you are inhibiting mom's cardiac return, which is going to thus inhibit mom's cardiac output, which is what's going to the placenta and bringing the oxygen and CO2 exchange. So if we are inhibiting that, we are lowering that, mom's blood pressure can drop, and she's not, the baby's not getting enough O2 CO2 exchange there, and so we can see that happening. So turn mom on the left side. If we do that, the baby just pops off, and blood flow is restored to mom's heart, and everything goes back to normal, and this disappears. It goes away. If not, though, some other interventions that are going to be available to us, okay, is give oxygen. So you might want to put an oxygen face mask on mom, 7 to 10 liters per minute there. We might want to increase mom's oxygen carrying capability or volume. Really, can't increase her oxygen carrying capability, but we can increase her volume and get what capability she has down there to the placenta. So we might want to increase that saline drip and do that. Okay, if left side doesn't work, try right side. Okay, I have seen the right side work when the left side didn't. So, but always try left side first, because that does seem to work more. But if it doesn't, you can always throw them back on the left side. Let's see. So oxygen, turn down the pit drip. It may be us causing this. Okay, so you might want to look at how much pit drip you're giving mom, and we may be causing too intense and too strong of contractions. So we may need to lower that pit drip down, slow that down, or maybe even turn it off completely and get these to go away. So, having said that, do your interventions, notify the healthcare provider. If these go away, let the healthcare provider know, hey, this is what we did, everything's good, or no, we've done all this stuff and we're still having these. So then the healthcare provider might need to make some decisions there and be thinking about C-section and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all this. Okay, and so next set of decelerations that we have, and I don't know if I told you, but those are called late deceleration. I think I did. I think I told you all that. Okay. So the last set that we're going to talk about is called variable decelerations. Variable decelerations. And these are usually caused by a prolapsed cord, cord around the neck, cord around the ankle, cord around the wrist. If I've got time, I'll tell you a cute one. But you can always tell the variable decelerations because they're sharp peaked valleys here, and usually, not in every case, but usually they'll have what we call shoulders. Not in every case though, okay? But those would be shoulders. In other words, they spike up first and then drop down into that big deep valley, go along for a while, they'll come back, spike up again, and then come back to normal. And then the next one may have another spike up and come down and do the same thing. And so these would all be shoulders, okay? And so, but not every one of them has those, but a lot of them do. But you have that deep decline where all the other two were bowl shaped. They were really rounded and bowl shaped. Kind of looked like they were mimicking mom's contractions there. They're kind of rounded and stuff. These are really sharp peaked valleys in these, and you can tell those obviously. So again, that is usually a blood flow interruption. So the cord prolapse. The cord is around the baby's neck. The cord is around the wrist, around the ankle, or whatever. And the funny one that I had was actually we had a baby that was born. That's how we knew it. He was actually squeezing. So these were popping in and out. We were seeing them, and then they'd go away for a long time. And then we'd see them again. They'd go away for a long time. We'd see them again. And so when the baby come out, he actually had his own cord in his hand, squeezing that cord. And so it was kind of funny. So he was actually squeezing his own cord, and then he'd figure out, I guess, that wasn't working too good for him, so he'd let go of it. And so that's what was going on. But again, with this one, you're going to do all the other things, but with this one, we're looking at that prolapsed cord or something wrong with the cord. So if the prolapsed cord, is where the cord has come out into the birth canal, and the baby is on it somehow and pinching that off. So what we want to do is, first thing you do, if mom's not had a diagnosis of placenta previa, premature labor, she's not bleeding from the birth canal, the vaginal canal, no bleeding there or anything like that, then you can go ahead and do a vaginal exam and see if you can literally feel the cord. But anyway, seeing these, a Trendelenburg position, so here's mom's head, here's mom's feet. We want to do that. So we want mom's head down, feet up. And so hopefully the baby will just slide in mom's belly, slide up that way and get off that cord, and the cord may slide up too and get pulled back in there, and that's good. That's something, just move that mom around that way and see if we can get that cord unblocked or anything like that. Continue on though with those other interventions that we talked about, giving oxygen, turning down the pit drip. If the Trendelenburg didn't work, put mom on her knees. So turn her belly down, mom on her knees, head down on the bed. And so that gets her buttocks up in the air at a pretty steep angle. And again, that may pull that baby that way. So oxygen fluid, increase the fluids. We want to do everything we can to try to saturate mom's blood as much as we can. So if a little bit of blood is getting through, okay, a little bit of blood is getting through, or oxygen O2 CO2 exchange, we want to try to flood that as much as we can. So if we flood mom's blood, give her as much volume as we can, as much oxygen as we can, that may help that. Okay, so I'm thinking that's all I need to say about that. I think you'll find the handout probably a little bit more in depth than this too, as explaining it. So hopefully that'll help you as well. Again, if you have any other questions to my students, please email me, not Facebook me, but Blackboard me, whatever we need to do to answer your questions. I will be glad to do that. Oh, one more thing. Let's look at some real ones really quick. Okay, so if you look at this one, this is early decelerations because right here is the nadir on the fetal heart tone, and right here is mom's peak point, and so they match up pretty easy there. We go over to this one again. Come back this way. The nadir of the fetal heart tone is here, and mom's peak is down there, and so you can see those are early decelerations. They're occurring early in mom's contraction is what we call that, okay? And so then the second one here, okay, is a late deceleration. Let's look at this one here is really good. So here's mom's peak of her contraction, and when we come up here, there is the start down or the deceleration of the baby's heart rate. And so you can see that it kind of lines up with mom's peak this time. So it's late. We call that it occurred late in mom's contraction. And then the baby reaches the nadir or the lowest point, and we look down here and mom's contraction is gone. It's over. Mom's contraction is over. And so then the baby's heart rate is back up to normal. And of course, in this instance, mom was about to start another contraction there. But you can see that the deceleration occurred late in mom's contraction. Okay, and then here is a good one with some nice peaks there. And okay, and so you can see the nice valley peaks. Oops, there we go. On all of these, drop really sharply down, and you can see on this one here, it's got a shoulder, and there's a little shoulder on that one. So you can see the shoulders there. This one didn't have shoulders, so that one didn't have any shoulders. That one had a little shoulder. Okay, this one over here had a shoulder. This one back here had a couple of little shoulders. So not always, but a lot of them do. And so you can tell that they're really deep peaked. So that's a good indication of variable decels. They just occur, variability just whenever, okay? And that's all I have on this. So I will stop there, and if you have any questions, just contact me.